First, we have the Optimism Town Hall. So I hope you all enjoy. Optimism Town Hall is featuring Cagendas, a community agenda game where everybody can choose a topic. So I see Rosmari giving their heart and Jacob having a party over here with emojis. Very nice to see. Hope everybody has enjoyed the preceding Optimism Fractal event, and I hope that everybody will have a great time at Optimism Town Hall. So if you're not familiar with Optimism Town Hall, check out optimismtownhall.com. It's a collaborative forum for discussions about Ethereum and the Superchain with a special focus on community coordination and governance. We host bi-weekly events that everyone's welcome to join, where it's an interactive space. Up there's Eric with the hat too. We're having fun with hats over here. Very cool. Congratulations on your graduation, Eric. And yeah, so everyone's welcome to join our bi-weekly events to learn about optimism, development, Ethereum opportunities, and contribute to important conversations about the collective's future. Every other Thursday at 18 UTC, immediately following Optimism Fractal. And we also have a community agendas games, Cagendas, OPTOPICS, where everybody's welcome to vote on topics with Optimism Fractal respect tokens. Also more in the future. We're experimenting with different things like OP and so forth, but these games allow people to choose the agenda in a democratic way. Really powerful systems. We recorded videos of each event. Everyone's welcome to join. You can check out optimismtownhall.com/videos to learn more and watch and also play your part, share your thoughts. And like I said, you can gain influence in the Optimism Town Hall by participating in Optimism Fractal respect games, where you can earn respect tokens that can help you vote more, or get more influence with your votes, rather. So, of course, you could also explore Ethereum and Optimism. Visit optimism.io and ethereum.org to learn more. We're contributing to building a better future on the internet with Ethereum and Optimism. So, encourage you to check out the resources and join our bi-weekly events at Optimism Town Hall on Thursdays at 18 UTC, as well as the Optimism Fractal event beforehand. Optimism.io to learn more about the Optimism Collective, and ethereum.org to learn more about leading platform for innovative apps and blockchain networks, and lu.ma/optimistics or .ma/optimism town hall to join the event, or the events calendar, where you can join both the Optimism Fractal and the Eden Fractal event, which occurs on the alternating Thursdays. We also post a weekly post about Optimism Town Hall in the Optimism Town Hall forum on the governance forum too, so you can stay up to date there, as well as we have a lot of discussions in the Optimism Fractal Discord. And just today, Rosmari put out this message inviting everyone to join to discuss Season 6 planning, implementation of participant agreements, and break structure considerations. So very curious to hear community's thoughts about this. But first, we'll maybe get into a little bit more just introductory information, then we'll get into these topics. So, like I said, there's videos of each event. We're in our second to last event of Season 3 of Optimism Town Hall, and I encourage everyone to watch the videos if you haven't yet seen them. We've discussed a lot of great topics this season, and so all sorts of great stuff going on with Optimism Season 7 and the fractals and respect games and so forth. And last event, we had a special guest from LobbyFi. Kirill joined, I believe the founder of LobbyFi, talking about lobby finance, which actually has accumulated, or as it's basically a democratic, or it's like a voting marketplace, basically, where people can acquire votes and pay money for them or put them up to the market. And it's accumulated over $20 million worth of votes, I think, in various networks like Arbitrum, and quite successful in Optimism as well, in terms of attracting a lot of votes and providing a service. So I encourage people to check it out for a full overview of this. I actually got a tweet from Vitalik too about it. Very interesting episode, and shout out to Kirill for joining us, and encourage people to check out the episode. And yeah, subscribe to Eden Creators YouTube channel to see this, as well as all the other videos from Town Hall and Optimism Fractal and other events. And like and subscribe. We appreciate your support and hope you enjoy the videos. So for today's agenda, like I said, we can have an open discussion in general, but specifically, like I said, we have the Cagendas game. And basically the way the Cagendas game is that whatever topics have the most votes on the Optimism Town Hall snapshot space on Monday at 17 UTC are the topics that will be discussed. That's like the simple rules of it. And then if you go to the Optimism Town Hall snapshot space, then you'll see a proposal that I put up a few days ago on Monday for playing OPTOPICS at Optimism Town Hall, and how it works and stuff like that. And basically, we've had a existing OPTOPICS poll that we've been using for the past maybe 2 months or so, where we have about 20 topics on here that everybody's welcome to vote on. And this is basically it's kind of another way to play a Cagendas game, where we can vote on topics throughout the event, as well as change topics if we want. So it's a bit more flexible. You can see the rules and how it works over here by scrolling down on snapshot.box/$/Optimism Town Hall. And you can see all the topics here and vote for them, and use weighted vote to spread out your voting. I think most people here know how it works. The top topics right now are optimism fractal agreements, fractal ecosystem, and respect.games app development. And you can see what everybody voted for over here. Thanks everybody for participating and voting for different things. So the top, so I think these two topics have the most votes, and I also voted for these two along with Rosmari. That's after we saw this had the most votes. That's something we wanted to discuss, and that's what we'll discuss mostly, kind of both these topics at once. Also, shout out to Vlad too, who's been building the Respect Up Games app. So maybe if we get a chance, we'll discuss this as well. You can learn more at Respect Up Games or optimistic.io/tools about this app. But for now, we'll focus on the first aspects about or either the first two topics that got the most votes in the poll, which are optimism fractal agreements and fractal ecosystem. So maybe I'll pause there for a second. If anybody has any comments on that, then feel free. And otherwise, I can give a little overview of what we're thinking about, or what I'm thinking about, and what I'm curious to hear from the community in terms of optimism fractal agreements and the season six. But yeah, if anybody wants to jump in with any thoughts, then feel free. And otherwise, I'm happy to share more. I know Rosemary's also been thinking about this with me a lot too, as well as I've talked about it a lot with Tadas, and we've also talked about some of this stuff with Eric too about agreements. So if anybody has any thoughts you want to share before we get started with jumping into the agenda stuff, then feel free.
Did want to kind of give people an update that I didn't give when we played our respect game.
Okay.
So something, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure we stay on topic mostly, but if it's a quick update, then feel free.
It's just a quick update to kind of give
Okay.
people an idea. So most people know that I also work at a startup, life science accelerator, where we create a collaborative ecosystem to transform innovative ideas into solutions by connecting people with funding, physical and IT resources, and expertise. And so funding on top of that, we just created a new nonprofit called the Aquilius Institute. And I'm bringing up creating a volunteer network that's actually starting to grow pretty good. And the goal is to connect all those. So the reason I'm bringing that in is just to put people's minds for the future of how do we use this to help manage that community and that nonprofit. That's it.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thanks for putting us in our
Oh,
minds, Eric, an
oh,
update.
and
If you want.
one of our big projects is the Innovation Women's Health pitch competitions. We did it at JPM Health Week. We had 500 people sign up, investors from all over, and we're doing one of those at uh, Festival of Biologics next month in San Diego and Bio International in Boston in June. And we're starting and this is kind of why, because you and Rosmari may have an interest or help. We're starting the Innovation Women's Health Podcast Network, launching with Biohacking Babes, dropping Wednesdays as early as April. That's it.
Okay, sounds good. Biohacking babes. Something to look forward to there. Well, yeah, looking forward to potentially collaborating there. And thanks for the update. If you want to share any links to the Aquilius Institute, I think you call it Aquilius, then feel free to share in the chat or in the Optimism Fractal Discord or the Eden Fractal Discord. We'd love to look into it more.
Yeah,
And
the Aquilius Institute is now the overarching, I don't even think it's on the website yet, but just happened. The overarching that drives the Aquilius Ventures for funding, Aquilius Corporation for physical and IT resources, and the Aquilius Seed for mentoring, networking, and expertise.
okay, sounds good. Thanks for the clarification on how it's all oriented now. And yeah, for anybody who's watching and isn't familiar with Eric's work, Eric has been working a lot to implement the respect game and fractal decision-making processes that Optimism Fractal is pioneering with nonprofits and government institutions and so forth. And so Eric actually just gave a great update about that during the respect game. So I encourage people to watch that video and get involved in future events. And this is all helping Optimism too, because these communities can all use Optimism and use the software in Optimism to better cooperate and coordinate as well. So little context there. And thanks so much, Eric, for the great work and the update. And yeah, feel free to reach out, like I said, when you have more updates or want some help from the community. And looking forward to following your progress and collaborating along the way. And I suppose with that, if anybody else wanted to jump in and share any thoughts, then feel free. But if not, then I suppose I'll just move on and get a little bit into this topic in here because this is something that I really wanted to discuss a little bit with the community too and hear everybody's thoughts. So yeah, if anybody has any thoughts throughout the event, then feel free to raise your hand or unmute or something like that. And up also Tadas said that Will voted, and so now if anybody hasn't submitted results for the Optimism Fractal Respect game, then you can now do so. So thanks Tadas for that update. I encourage people to do that. But yeah, I'll go ahead and share some thoughts about the Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall the next season, and curious to hear what everybody thinks. So feel free to raise your hand or unmute along the way or share some messages in the chat. So as you can see here, Rosmari broke it down. This was something we discussed a few days ago, and we're wondering a couple things. So one, for everybody's awareness, Optimism Town Hall and Optimism Fractal, they're both nearing their last event of the season. This is the second to last event of Optimism Town Hall, and we just finished the second to last event of Optimism Fractal. This is Optimism Town Hall's third season, Optimism Fractal's fifth season. So we'll be returning for the fourth season of Optimism Town Hall and the sixth season of Optimism Fractal soon. And we're just deciding what the best way to orient it is because we have made some changes. So for anybody who's not familiar, if you go into our thread for Optimism Town Hall, back about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we switched to a bi-weekly schedule for both Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall. Yeah, we did this back in December. Now it's March. So we were previously hosting weekly events, but now we're hosting bi-weekly events, and we made a proposal with the Optimism Fractal Council to decide this, and it's been working out quite well. I hope everybody's been enjoying the bi-weekly events so far. So this is the post in the Optimism Town Hall forum thread on the governance forum, and then this is another post in the Optimism Fractal governance thread where we talked about the proposal to transition to the bi-weekly schedule and so forth. So we had lots of videos when we discussed this, but by changing this, one thing that it's also changed that we hadn't really fully considered at that time is the seasonal structure length, because we usually used to do 3-month seasons, and that kind of worked out with like the seasons of the year. As you could see, like we've had some pictures where it showed the different seasons, and it was kind of a nice thing where the 3 seasons went along with a lot of times, a lot of countries around the world have 3 seasons. But now, because it's bi-weekly, now each season takes approximately 6 months to do, because so far we've done 12 event seasons. And so those 12 events over bi-weekly, that winds up being about 6 months. And so that's one topic here. Personally, I think that probably a 6-month season is probably best. That's something that we've been doing so far, and people have noticed this season 5 has been going on for just about 6 months now. So, but that's something that I figured might be just helpful to bring up with the community and see if anybody has any thoughts or strong opinions about that, about the best approach. We're kind of figuring this out as we go, to determine what is the best seasonal structure. And then another thing that has changed a bit since we changed to the bi-weekly event structure is the length of our break. So previously we would take a 2-week break, which was a 2-event break, when we had a weekly event structure. But now we have a bi-weekly event structure, and we're wondering if we should take 1 event off or 2 events off for the break. And so that's something we'd also appreciate any opinions on, if people have strong opinions. If we were to take off 1 week or 1 event from a break, then basically today is March 20th, and our last event of the season for Optimism Town Hall and Optimism Fractal will be on the 3rd. And then if we did a 1 event break, then we take off from the 17th and we come back on May 1st. So that would be, I guess, 4 weeks later. And if we did a 2-event break, then we'd take off on both the 17th of April and the 1st of May, and then return on the 15th of May. So that'd be approximately 6 weeks from the last event of season 5 to the first event of season 6, or 4 weeks. So that's one question. We're also thinking about doing this for Eden Fractal too, and leaning towards doing the 2-event break for Eden Fractal. And also I'm considering doing it for Optimism Fractal because it does take a lot of work to like put up the events and everything like that. We want to make sure it's well, but we also want to make sure that like basically taking what the community wants to do into consideration, hearing what everybody wants. If people want more events or less events, or if people have a preference on the length of the break and the seasonal structure, that's kind of one of the topics here. But actually, that's kind of like the topic that had the second most votes, which is the fractal ecosystem. So I'd be curious your thoughts about that. But maybe I'll also first introduce this other topic as well, and then we can see whatever topic we want to hear feedback or people want to discuss first. And the other topic that actually had the most votes is optimism fractal agreements. So um, we've been thinking about it. We've talked about it several times at Optimism Fractal in the past, and I think maybe Optimism Town Hall, maybe before Optimism Town Hall started, the idea of implementing participant agreements. And right now, it just basically anybody can join Optimism Fractal, and we just kind of put out the Zoom room and the event invite in the calendar, and people can go onto the calendar for Optimism Fractal or any of the events and just go hit join event, and then they're in the Zoom room. And there's no like signing of anything. Like there's no contract currently or something like that. And for a while we thought about how it could be useful to have some sort of system where people are like signing like having some sort of agreement to make sure that everybody's on the same page and stuff like that, and make sure that people are protected from legal liability. So we have a project in the Optimism Fractal Notion page that's called Implement On-Chain Optimism Fractal Participant slash Contributor Agreement. I created this last August, and I've been gradually adding it to it over time, basically thinking at the steps required to implement some sort of agreement and what that agreement would look like. And I think that now might be a good time to do it. I mean, I think it might be a really good time to do it. So we've been talking about it, and uh, I think season six, this might be a good opportunity to get the agreement actually in place. And so I figured this might be a good brainstorming session for it and see what everybody thinks. I have a project here that talks about, there's a whole bunch of tasks you can see about how it could work. I started drafting some agreements. And so there's lots of resources here. But maybe I'll just give like a brief overview of it. So like the main intention for the legal agreement, or it doesn't necessarily need to be a legal agreement, but it could be. But the main intention for the agreement is to like outline the terms and conditions for community members to join and participate, make sure everybody's on the same page, and make sure that everybody consents to um like what is happening basically. And I think that this will help us grow a lot more when we have this agreement. Like for example, like one of the main terms that I'd like to establish for the agreement is that everybody's clearly consenting to being recorded on video and having that video shared. Um, because that's one of the things we're doing. And we always talk about how the videos are shared and stuff like that, but we just want to make sure that everybody's very aware of that. And that will enable us to do things like share the videos more widely. And for example, if somebody says like something that's really great during a video, during an event, then we can like tag them and help promote their work more effectively because we can like, clip their clip or something like that. But if people aren't like agreeing to that, like 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 actually just like explicitly agreeing to that, then we don't have clarity about what people want. And so the agreement could potentially have like an opt-in, opt-out kind of thing where we have certain preferences of what people want to do. And I think there's lots of ways it can grow. But that's like one of the ideas, and that's one of the main things that we're thinking about doing. So you could see I have a couple different like draft agreements here, like write and propose option fractal participant agreement. And I drafted out several different versions of it here. You can see all the notes. I apologize. I wanted to like prepare it and prepare an actual proposal before the event, but I didn't really get a chance to do that. But I have worked on it a lot. Like, so one thing I noticed when I went to a lot of events at Eth Denver, it has noticed like by attending this event, you agree to be included in photographs and footage that may be taken by this event for marketing publicity purposes on the website, blog, or in social media and stuff like that. So that's one thing. There's also another thing over here that says like, additionally, by joining this event, you consent that like you're not necessarily going to get paid from the event, just to make sure that like people are like on the same page. We just don't want like people to get in like have legal liability from somebody misunderstanding something like that. And then I suppose I can also mention like so for one thing we have Optimism Fractal Intents or optimismfractal.com/details, which is kind of like laying out the structure of how the actual events work and how the system works. So we might also want to have some agreement that people have read this so they understand what is the consensus process and what are respect tokens and stuff like that. And then I can also provide a bit of context too. So the agreements like the first fractal, it's called the Genesis fractal, and we met here. if you go to youtube.com/Eden creators and you go to our playlist, or I think there's probably some easier way to find it, but there's a Genesis fractal where this started over like 3 years ago. And we had 30 meetings with about 30 people each. And when they started, they had like a very like kind of professional agreement that was signed. You can see all the videos here, and this was much bigger than Optimism Fractal. This was created by Dan Larimer's team and so forth. And when we first joined this event, there was an agreement we had to sign, and then they also worked on like a much more detailed document that they were actually creating an UNA document, which is short for an unincorporated non nonprofit association, I believe. And yeah, you could see this is one of the things that they had written about software liability to make sure that, like the developers don't have liability from building software. And yeah, I've curated a lot of their work. I put together an article at edencreators.com/agreements, which for some reason it's not loading right now. I don't know why, but that article curates a lot of the early work on agreements and different kinds of drafts of agreements that we have used in the past. And we also discussed this for hours at Eden Fractal back about 2 years ago, but we've just never gotten around to actually putting agreement in. And generally, I think it's probably a good idea to make an agreement and have it as a requirement to be able to participate in the events. But I also want to make sure it's not like too overwhelming for the community, and that I don't want to make it like some super long technical one that nobody's ever going to read. Like I'd like to have it where it's like accessible and so forth. I'm going across here. This is the original Genesis Fractal agreement that was like pretty long. Some people didn't want to sign it, but it also provided like a lot of legal protections. And I signed it, everybody else signed it too. And then they had a much longer one for the UNA as well. So I'm just curious to everybody's thoughts about this. I would like to make a proposal for this with the council and then implement it. And I think this is also necessary, like in the long term too, because in the long term, like as the community grows, people might try to like take advantage of it or something like that. And there might also be, AIs joining and stuff like that. And the community needs to form like kind of protections for itself to make sure that people aren't like trying to like legally attack it or something like that. So I think that this is in the best interest of everybody in the community. And yeah, I'm happy to share more resources. I'm sorry that my presentation has been a bit scrambled here. Unfortunately, this website has everything curated well, but that's not working right now. So I'll go and I'll fix that website. And then I had the UNA there too, but I don't know exactly where it is. So I could pull up more details if it'd be helpful about any of these things that I had shared. But you can explore this project as well for a lot more details about this. Also, another thing is that the Hats tree, Jacob had set up the Hats tree. The technical aspects of it, we collaborate on that, and we did some episodes of Optimism Town Hall about that a few months ago. Hats does offer an agreement module to be able to sign agreements on chain. So we could potentially use that for signing these agreements. And then, yeah. Another thing too about this is that I've I worked a lot and I've collaborated with Rosmari on making like an Optimism Fractal like contributor page, and that's also something we did with Hats, where we had like a Charmverse page where people could um like it's not really developed right now, but we had an idea that people could like kind of curate who they are. But like from my vantage point, or other people like say Rosemary or something like that, like we don't know for sure if people want that. And so it'd be helpful for clarity if like people are like, yes, I would love to be curated on this Optimism Fractal networking site, and then we could have like profiles by everybody or something like that if it'd be helpful. So it would provide clarity that would let us promote it better, and then it could also provide legal protection, especially with this. I mentioned before that I approved this proposal, or I didn't approve this proposal, but I got this research grant proposal approved several months ago for the Optimism Fractal Respect Game research into fund distribution. And as I demonstrated, or as I explained and we discussed in recent episodes of Optimism Town Hall and last week's Eden Fractal event, a lot of this is like it's coming along, and we have all this infrastructure we have infrastructure, and we have these plans and research to actually start distributing funds via Optimism Fractal. But we need to make sure that if we're bringing money into the equation, that sometimes people change their minds when money's on the line and they start thinking differently. And so we need to make sure that if and when there is money distributed, that people have a clear understanding of, okay, exactly how should that be distributed, who that like what are the rules basically, and that people don't have the wrong understanding of it. And so signing that kind of agreement and getting that kind of like on-chain assurance that people understand what they're doing, I think could provide that kind of legal protection and allow the community to grow, to do better marketing, as well as to do more sophisticated interactions and distribution of funds and stuff like that. So I see Rosemary just shared a link with me for this page I was trying to share before. Oh, for some reason, I guess my link was just broken. But yeah, this is the agreement page. Thank you so much, Rosemary. This is EdenCreators.com/agreement. This is a page where I curated we had a discussion about this at Eden Fractal's 37th and 38th meeting over 2 years ago about agreements, and we never came to consensus to make an agreement then. We decided to make like a really short and simple agreement, but I've been kind of going back and forth whether we should like just start it like really short and simple with just like one or two things about the videos, or if we should include more. We have a lot of this stuff from like Genesis Fractal that we could take and just use, but yeah, if anyone want to check out, you can see where we discuss this in detail, full videos and stuff like that from previous events where we discussed this for like 3 hours. So encourage people to check it out. And then this page also has, a lot more details about draft proposals for the agreement and to-dos and stuff like that. And then I also have the UNA as well, if people want to check out the full UNA agreement that the Genesis Fractal had made. I have that all curated here too. So there's like this like very detailed document here where they never put this in invitation, but there's like a 13-page thing that actually created a organization that was meant to provide legal protection for the community. So this could be like kind of the most extreme version. And I don't know if it's extreme, but this is like the most like thorough version. But I don't know if people want to read that and want to do that, or if we should just start with like one page or something like that. But anyway, I've shared a lot. So thanks everybody for listening and curious to hear your thoughts. I could share more if needed, but I see Tadas has his hand up. So I'll pass over to Tadas now.
Okay, thanks. So I think the main things are uh so we have people who are taking parts of different parts of Optimism Fractal. So you, Dan, and Rosmari, you host the meetings and you manage meeting recordings and all of that. Me and Abraham, we manage the apps. So I think currently the main part of software agreement are basically uh, meeting participant agreement and user agreements for the apps. And I think the way we could proceed is you then simply create an agreement which you need to to be safe uh, for you as a meeting host and as a manager of all of these recordings. Basically, create a meeting participant agreement, and then I don't know. Maybe I will create a user agreement for the apps to protect me, but yeah, and I'm not sure if we need anything else. If we do, then maybe we could join eventually all of these agreements. But I'm thinking that maybe the step forward would be just to different people to create agreements for their parts and then combine them later.
Okay. Good point. Kind of simplifies it. Thanks to Das.
Yeah, and this way it would be easier. If you come up with a meeting participant agreement, then you could already probably start introducing it in season 6, even if we don't yet have consensus on the whole agreement, other parts of it.
Right. And then we could potentially progressively add it over time, to add more there. Um, okay, that makes sense. And then, yeah, I'd be curious, Tadas, if you have any thoughts about that. Also, if it's worth it to think about broader agreements, like I mentioned before, that this is the UNA, which is very long and detailed. I mean, if people want to read this, there's a lot of stuff that might be good. And basically, from my perspective, like I started making um, the agreement for the video and I drafted that, but then I started reading like the Genesis Fractal agreement and the other ones. I'm like, oh, that might be a good term for us to include too. So do you have any thoughts, Das, about like the idea of just maybe even starting with like a longer agreement like this too? I mean, the Genesis Fractal was also trying to do it with liquid tokens too, with liquid respect tokens. So they were assuming more kind of legal risk. And also the the founder of the Genesis Fractal, Dan Larimer, was like he's quite famous already, and quite wealthy. So I guess his team was also trying to protect that as well. So they had a different situation, because he was a founder of several different high profile products already. But does it make sense, do you think, to maybe try to get multiple things at once? Because like I was also thinking too, like just the agreement, like I think that the agreement that like from my side, for example, the agreement that people consent to the video recording and video sharing is important, but it's also important if we do start to enter this territory where we have fund distribution from Optimism Fractal, people can join Optimism Fractal events, but maybe we determine, like, I don't know, maybe we determine not everybody earns funding for Optimism Fractal. Like one of the things I've been thinking about that I'm planning to design in these next stages is like maybe not everybody who earns any respect can earn funding, but say if you earn, I don't know, like 500 respect or something like that, then that qualifies you to earn funding or something like that. Like maybe there's something like that where there's like some qualifications to earn funding, but maybe if some people don't understand that and they're like, hey, I joined 3 events and I earned 150 respect, why don't I have money? Then they might get mad or something like that. And like maybe having an agreement, kind of like the intent page that we have, but maybe more. And it says like, also, here's how it works. Basically, you can get funding if you get 500 respect or something like that. Do you think it makes sense to also like go ahead and do that? Or even with the videos too. Like I want to like I'm a little bit concerned. Like if somebody's trying to like I don't know be aggressive legally or something like that, they could be like, hey, I'm personally trying to build a business around some of the tools that we're building and stuff like that and earn funds with this, but what if like somebody joins the event and they're like, hey, I participated in the event and I was in part of the video, and how come I don't get funding from this because I was part of the video? So like probably in that agreement, I guess that I could make, I could say just by participating in the event and being on the video doesn't entitle you to funds, basically. So I could add that. But yeah, I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about adding more details to it. And particularly in light of, and funds being potentially distributed, because I think that's the point when people might get more like when the agreement becomes more needed. If not, maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, but just sharing some of my thoughts personally and curious to ask if you have any thoughts about this in addition. But I like the simple approach you made, so maybe it's best to go with that simple. Or if anybody else has any other thoughts too, then curious to hear about it. Or whenever we can also move on to the next topic about the event structure and stuff.
Well, from my side, I don't know. Optimism Fractal is currently like very modular, and I'm not sure how can you create an agreement for all of it. Like, how would people sign it? I mean, if you sign it in uh, somewhere, it does not prevent people from interacting with ORDAO, for example. And so from ORDAO perspective, people who can interact with it are still part of a community if we have respect. And I'm not sure, like technically, if you create an agreement for a whole community, then if people who do not sign it are not part of a community, but currently nobody signed any agreement, so I'm not sure how we transition to that kind of uh, model where you have to sign an agreement to become a community member uh, without like making changes, significant changes to for DAO and maybe Fractalgram even. So yeah.
Yeah, well, so we've been discussing this a little bit because there's somebody who we're collaborating with is interested in this feature as well. And I think that's features that we might want to build, but something that I can mention here too, because I think it is like, and that's another aspect of it too, that we could have an agreement, but what happens if people don't sign the agreement? Then are they allowed to participate in the events and join and earn respect and everything like that, like everybody? Because then what's really like the point of the agreement if anybody can do it and they're still able to join just as much? And like when I mentioned the Genesis Fractal agreement, the way that it worked is like everybody had to sign this agreement on Hive, which is on the blockchain. And you can probably see a lot of these signatures actually over here where people say like, I agree, I agree, I agree. And that's what was required basically in order to participate. And then Joshua, who was the host of the Genesis Fractal, he would say if somebody joined and they didn't sign the agreement, they're like, maybe you can join for one event, but you can't keep joining or something like that. And then he would manually, like, I guess, say, okay, this person hasn't agreed, so they're not able to participate. So that's one potential option. There's also the option, like I mentioned, the HATS protocol allows for the agreement module, and actually Luma. allows for token gating events. So you could token gate an event, for example, so that only people who have a certain hat are able to see that event or rather join the Zoom room or something like that. It's also kind of a balance too, because like we don't want to make it too difficult for people to join. I think that, the vast majority of people just want to join and contribute positively to the community and don't want to deal with like too tedious an agreement or anything like that. But so it's a balance between, I guess, like protecting the community, but also making it easy to grow and participate. And it is nice that it's easy to participate, but that is an option if we want to have either where, say, me as the host can just see if anybody hasn't agreed and can talk with them beforehand, or even we could have it where it's like token gated, where you can't see the Zoom room unless you join. But then again, like our Discord isn't token gated. We could token gate Discord and stuff like that. And maybe that's a good idea to do in the future, but just sharing some more thoughts here about how this could work technically if we did want to have like some sort of, I suppose, enforcement for the agreement where people couldn't join unless they signed it.
Yeah, but that only protects the meeting part, and the on-chain part also has to be integrated. Anyway, so I think that's why I think it makes sense to do it in a modular way, as we have built everything so far. So create different pieces of agreement for different parts of it, like meeting participant agreement, and then build other parts and see if it comes together. And from my perspective, it's fine if it does not come together, because like people can, if you put to participate in the meeting, you sign the agreement. If you want to interact with other features of Optimism Fractal, you might have to sign another.
Right. That makes sense. And I mean, the also, I think it might just be worth saying, in case it's not obvious, that the participation in the meeting also has some effect on the usage of the software too, because we use the software and play the game at the meeting. So if people aren't allowed to join the meeting, then they wouldn't be using the software probably that Optimism Fractal uses for the Optimism Fractal deployment. They could always deploy ORDAO separately, and that could be part of a more general like developer liability agreement to remove your liability from other people who deploy ORDAO for other communities. But just Optimism Fractal's meeting participant agreement, I guess, could make it so people aren't using ORDAO in a bad way or something like that if they're at Optimism Fractal. And also, the ORDAO and the council and stuff could also vote against it too if they like, oh, that person hasn't signed the agreement. I guess they could make a proposal saying that too in an edge case.
But there is nothing preventing like it's directly submitting to on-chain smart contract. So even if you do not like use the apps uh, through in the meeting, uh, and if you have a respect from parent respect, like if you have vote in ORDAO, you can still submit votes. You do not need to do it through the apps necessarily.
That's true, although they won't have respect though from Optimus Fractal if they do that. I mean, I guess they could if they've earned it in the past, but
Yeah, in the past.
yeah.
But yeah, I guess if Optimism Fractal has consensus to like anyway, still yeah, maybe let's move on to the next topic.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks to us for all the thoughts here. I suppose before we move on to the next topic, if anybody else, Gudasol, Eric, Rosmari, Jake, if anybody else has any other comments on this or thoughts, then would be curious to hear any feedback or thoughts or anything like that. And then we can move on to the next topic after that if we have an opportunity to about the timing. So, is anybody inspired to share any thoughts? If not, happy to just move on too. But it looks like nobody's unmuting. So, yeah, if any thoughts come to mind, then feel free to share when they come to mind, or raise your hand, or you can share in the Discord and stuff like that too, of course. But otherwise, and we do only have 10 minutes left on the scheduled meeting. I'm happy to go a bit longer too because we did get a bit late start. but want to make sure that we're respecting everybody's time. So I'll move um, on to the next topic. I see Gudasol wrote, I think agreement is a good idea. Sounds good. Thanks for the feedback, Gudasol. I appreciate that. And yeah, that helps provide some clarity too, because curious what everybody thinks about this. I haven't really done agreements like this before in the past, and so appreciate your feedback. All right. So I think that we'll move on. We can always come back to the agreement stuff, but I suppose just last thing to share with the agreement stuff is, and it kind of relates to Das's point about how we implement Optimism Fractal. Like I do think that like I'm thinking of making a proposal to the Optimism Fractal Council to implement this because I think it might be like appropriate to go to the Optimism Fractal Council. I see Rosmari wrote, I think doing more research and talking to people who've done this before will be a helpful next step. That's also a good idea too. And I have contact with the person who worked a lot on the Genesis Fractal Contribute Agreement in Fractal Luna, so I could ask him what he thinks as well. I remember actually asking about that a couple of years ago, so could speak with them. And yeah, doing some more research is a good idea. And then yeah, I think it makes sense to do more research and then maybe we'll come back with a proposal next week or something like that, and then I can start up more conversation or maybe over the break. But anyway, yeah, I suppose we can move on to the first topic here. So up, I see Eric is on meeting too. Eric, do you want to share any more thoughts on this?
Yeah, just a quick one. I would just start with, rather than saying, say these words, start with, well, what do we want to do? Protect this, do that, ensure that, make sure people understand. So I would say what you want the agreement to do and make that really clear.
I agree. I see Tadas giving a thumbs up too. Thanks, Eric, for the advice. And yep, I see Gudasol says gotta go, gotta drop. Good to see you. Peace. Peace, Gudasol. Thanks for all you do. And yeah, I also do have that. Maybe I'll share in the Discord throughout the next couple of weeks my either proposal or draft proposal because I couldn't find it actually. I didn't realize that I didn't prepare for the agreement stuff as well as I should have. So, but I did have like a more well written out thing that kind of explains the part of the videos. So I'll try to follow up with that, and then it'll have a clear statement of the goal basically. So, and we'll take into account this feedback. All right. So, once again, if anybody else has any thoughts about this, then feel free. But otherwise, would be very curious to hear everybody's thoughts about the 6 month versus 3 month seasonal structure and the one event versus two event break duration. I kind of already explained that before, so I think that everybody's aware of that. If anybody wanted a reminder about it or more details about it, then feel free. I'm happy to provide more details. I can also provide my perspective on it. But first, does anybody have any thoughts about this in general? Whether you have a preference or what do you think might be best regarding either doing a 6 month seasonal structure versus a 3 month seasonal structure going forward, and also a one event versus a two event break duration.
Well, I am always a big fan of 90 days. 90 days is enough to get stuff done, but it's not, it's also, it's long enough to get stuff done, but it's not so long that you can't adjust and as things move and say, let's focus on this. So if you're focusing seasons on
I think you might have kind of broken out there, Eric. We said, yeah, I heard. So if you're focusing seasons on,
90-day cycles.
I'm not sure if we heard everything there. I heard so if we're focusing seasons on, and then like 10 seconds later, I heard you say 90-day cycles. So I think I understood your point. I'm just not sure if we missed something in the middle.
Um,
Maybe Eric is having some internet issues or
oh,
something.
looks good. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm just saying 90-day cycles are good. It's enough time to get everybody focused to get something significant done, but it's not so long that you get trapped in there or that you can't adjust as the world adjusts and things become more important.
Okay, good point, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, remember we've also discussed this at Eden Fractal several times before too, and you shared some great thoughts about that. I see Tadas has a hand raised, so I'll pass over to Tadas now.
So right now we have our last meeting, and after that it will be around 6 months, I think, since season 4 ended, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I'm generally a fan of like following the precedent. So if we already started, basically right now we already adjusted to the bi-weekly meetings by making the season longer as well. And I think that makes a lot of sense because like uh, we generally make progress through these meetings where we discuss these things and stuff. So the truth is that Optimism Fractal slowed down in terms of changing itself with bi-weekly structure, and I think it it makes sense for to adjust the seasonal structure as well.
It makes sense to adjust it to a 6 month seasonal structure instead of a 3 month, you mean?
Yes. I think
Mm,
it's just natural because like it's I mean we did not think about the ending the season sooner throughout this 6 months because it there did not seem to be a need because of bi-weekly structure, and I don't know.
Well, there's this idea of attention and unstoppable momentum. So what we get now is get people that are really dedicated coming back. But if you want more people, they want to feel a sense that they're moving. There's some progression. We achieved this when. Now here's another win. 6 months is great, but it just seems like, boy, we spent a long time doing this. So some people will get bored. So they want to feel like they're on a journey, not just on a bus that's going somewhere. Where are we going? And just
Yeah,
from a community building's perspective, is unstoppable momentum means a constant set of wins.
that makes sense, and I agree. But note that 3 months will be only 6 meetings.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's I don't know.
Yep, that's true. Um, so I don't know. I see Eric is unmuted. I don't know if Eric is trying to say something again. We're having an issue or something like that.
Nope.
Okay.
Just listening. I'm not disagreeing with Tadas. He's got great points as always.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, yeah, I suppose I'll share some thoughts there. So one, yeah, I'll go ahead, Tadas, if you want.
Yeah, one more thing, like uh, we could also like decide it later, like next season. We could simply go as with a flow and see if at the end of 3 months we will feel like we need a break, or if we will feel like uh we can go for another 3 months. Uh, and right now maybe the more urgent question is like how long of a break to take after uh this last meeting in 2 weeks.
Yep, that's a good point too. Although I'd also like to just add a bit more thoughts here that I have that I haven't yet shared much in detail. So for one thing, I don't think, yeah, Rosmi just wrote one of the things I was going to say. Yeah, maybe taking a break in between seasons if it's like 6 months total. And yeah, I think we can still accomplish what Eric is talking about the 90-day cycle, by having like a mid-season break basically. And that way we could still take a break and schedule it so that we're not having because between Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall, we have events every week basically. And sometimes with Optimism Town Hall and Optimism Fractal, that's 2 events a week. So doing that for 6 months straight is like it's kind of a lot, and it's nice to have some breaks in between. And I think if we have like a mid-season break, that's kind of like something that people can rally around, which is about 90 days and 6 events of each event. And but it's still the whole season will be 12 events and about 6 months. And I agree with Tadas's point that that's kind of like sticking with what we have the precedent for, and yeah, we didn't think at all about really shortening it. And it also does like I think it works kind of well. Like we've been making these seasonal threads too. And it's kind of nice. Like if we only had 6 events in the season, then we'd have to make these threads more often and we'd have a whole bunch of them and then we get to like high numbers of seasons pretty quickly. So generally I'm in favor of doing a longer season, like a 6 month. I think it's also the Optimism Collective does 6 month seasons too. And they started with I think 3 months, but then they decided that having longer was better for
Well,
some reason. I
you
think
could also do a 90-day sprint, then have a debrief, plan the next session, and take a break, and then do another 90-day sprint.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fairly similar to that what I was suggesting with having say 6 month seasons, but like mid seasons that are both 90 days basically, and then you take a break after that, and then you can reflect upon what you did over that first half of the season, and then go into the next half of the season, kind of like a sports game too. Like a lot of times they play for an hour and then they take a half hour off in the middle or something, 20 minutes off in the middle during halftime, and then they come back for another hour or something like that. Like, and then you know you can reflect during that time and stuff like that. I think that makes sense. Another thing, thanks Eric for the insights there, and feel free to jump in more if you want. And we are at the top of the hour, but I think I'll keep going for a bit longer for anybody who can stick around, just because kind of inspired and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'll wrap it up shortly, and maybe it does need to go, then feel free. But a couple quick things I want to share. One, I did do this chat with ChatGPT, which I think is also kind of relevant, about a week ago, which is what is the length of major popular sports seasons, soccer, NFL, NBA, etc. And a lot of sports seasons have like much longer seasons of 8 months, 9 months, 6 months, 5 months, and so forth. So, um, and I also asked for clarification. It's not like very closely related or aligning with Earth's 4 seasons, but there's benefits of that, like considerations for climate, which isn't so important for us, but the length of sports schedule, potential playoffs, and fan engagement and media strategy and stuff like that. So, and financial and business factors. So, that's another thought that like we could also compare it to. And as I mentioned, Optimism Collective has 6 month season, so it could be good to arrange with that. And then I suppose another thing that I could just share real quick for anybody who's interested in diving into this topic deeper. We discussed this quite a bit in Eden Fractal 75th meeting. I'm not showing the thumbnail right now properly, but if you scroll around, we had a good discussion about this where we were discussing seasons and lots of stuff like that. And Eric shared more thoughts about the unstoppable momentum there. And then also we discussed seasons at Optimism Fractal in the 23rd event, and then also in the 34th event. So this has been like a kind of common topic that we've been discussing. So I just want to provide some background context for anybody who wants to dive in deeper. And then, yeah, so I suppose anybody can follow up in the chat if you have any thoughts about that, or if anybody else has any other thoughts about the length of the season. But we also do like Tadas said and figure it out as we go next season. But I think maybe establishing a schedule rather than playing by ear might be good. And my personal preference, I think, would be for a 6 month season with a 1 month or not a 1 month, but rather a mid-season break for an event that we take off for there. And I suppose we could figure out on the Discord or via poll or something proposal to the council going forward. So yeah, if anybody has any thoughts about that, then feel free. Also, Tadas mentioned the thing that's more kind of urgent to discuss is 1 event versus 2 event break duration. So before we wrap up, I just want to see if anybody has any thoughts about that, any preferences.
Is that the break duration in between, like during the season or in between 6 months season?
That's a good question. So it could be both. Although the more timely one right now is the one that's between seasons. The one that'll happen sooner.
Yeah, we have to decide first, like the one that's relevant now, I think. So that's the one in between seasons.
That's right. Although also worth considering the one during seasons too for the future. Do you have any suggestions? Or like I said, we are over time. I'm happy to go longer, but if we want to just wrap it up and think it over, then we can. I can also share my perspective on it too, if you'd like to hear.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, this sounds good. Um, so I think that well, first I'll start by saying that I think that the the event in the middle of the season or the break in the middle of the season, I think it makes sense to take off one event from there. I don't think we want to have too long of a break in between the middle of seasons. I see Rosemary said she's gonna go. Thanks all. Thanks so much, Rosemary. Um, and yeah, I've also been talking about this with Rosemary too, so I have a decent idea of her perspective and can speak a bit to that. And then maybe I'll just open up this note here just to this is about the agreement stuff, but I'm just gonna put because I had copied I had an overview of something that I wrote when I was discussing with Rosemary about just what this would look like basically. And basically I saw like three options here for skipping one event of each Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal, maybe just skipping one Eden Fractal event and two Eden Fractal events, and then skipping two Optimism Fractal events and two Eden Fractal events. And I'm saying the word skipping, but skipping isn't, quite the right word because it's like taking off basically for the break. My perspective and what I think is probably best is to take off two Optimism Fractal events and two Eden Fractal events. Um, in which case that'd be approximately 4 weeks between any of these events, and like we'd basically take off Optimism Fractal April 3rd to May 15th, and then Eden Fractal April 10th to May 22nd. So we wouldn't have an event between April 10th and May 15th, which is just over a month. Um, I want to do what's best for the community and what the community wants most, but from my personal perspective, I've been um, like my to-do list is like I mark things to do them like a year ago because I have so many things that I need to do and so many things I want to reach out to people for, or not even reach out to people, but just respond to people. And I feel bad that I haven't responded yet. And uh, like there's also lots of stuff like Tadas we've been talking about, different communities are interested in implementing the respect game, and that takes a lot of work and effort to like just figure out how to offer the respect game to others and figure out how to package it or coordinate around and stuff like that. And so I feel like having less events in general would provide more time to be able to do these things and overall improve the event quality. And if we're doing a 6 month season, then that's not often that we're doing these longer breaks. And it's kind of more like a sports league or sports team where you come back after like a lot of sports teams take like 4 month break. I'm not at all suggesting that, but it's like it's a bit longer. It's taking two events off and then the midseason break is one event. So that's like what I'm leaning towards. I also like, but I also want to make sure that like that's something the community wants. 'Cause I know that like I really enjoy meeting with everybody at the community and have a great time doing it. And I know a lot of people get a lot of value from it. So I want to make sure we're not meeting too infrequently if we do that. But my general feeling is like it does take a lot of work to organize and promote the events and stuff like that. And it doesn't it's not like a huge amount of work. So I mean we could do it and like that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask here to see like how much demand there is for having a shorter break and getting right back into the season because really I want to do what's best for the community. But my perspective is that having a bit more time off from events could allow us to both make the events like more better and more special by investing more in advance to them, as well as be allowing, myself and others to focus on other aspects like working on like the software development and product development stuff like that. And I think that events are a big part of what we do as Optimism Fractal, but there's also other things that we can do as well. And some of those things, if we devote more resources to towards the other things, then that could maybe make the events as well as everything else that we're doing more impactful. So that's what I'm leaning towards, like having a 2 week break for each of these or a 2 event break for each of these. But I'm very curious to hear, if anybody who's watching this has any feedback and in the Discord and prefers more events, or Jake or Joss, if you have any thoughts about it, then I'm not like very like super set in any of these. Is that helpful to Das? Do you see it differently or?
Yeah, I see it the same way, and my to-do list is expanding the same way. It's always expanding faster than I'm able to complete to basically complete the tasks. So yeah, that's one thing, and another. Yeah, I think if you think you feel like you need a two meeting break, then I think it's a big argument to take a 2 week break because yeah, you're a huge part of this of having these meetings running. I mean, you and Rosmari have to do the most work to make these meetings happen. So we need you rested and stuff. And I hope if you take 2 week 2 meeting break, I think you should also not just work on these tasks in your to-do list, but also take a break for at least half of that. Yeah, and from my perspective, it's like I don't know. I can adjust. I also have a bunch of tasks I want to finish and also rest as well. But so it just means that I would basically maybe fall off a typical rhythm with meetings, but then use that time to focus more maybe on other stuff. Yeah, so from my perspective, 2 meeting break, and if we take a 2 meeting break, then I would do the same for both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal. And yeah, it makes sense. 2 meeting break makes sense from a perspective that we had like 6 months of no breaks basically. So yeah, I think that might be the most natural thing to do as well.
Okay. Well, we did have a couple breaks. We did have the winter break, where we took a couple weeks off. And that's also something that kind of fits in this equation too, because like our seasons don't always align directly with the year and the holidays and stuff like that. So we might have to have some flexibility for there. And um,
That was like mid-season break.
it was
Oh,
after like I think it was after like the fourth week or something like that of the season. But also before that, I don't know, like we didn't start doing bi-weekly until around that time though. So we were doing week I think we did like 3 or 4 weekly events, then we switched to bi-weekly after the winter break, I think. Yeah, but yeah, those are all great points. I appreciate it. And also same to you, Tadas. I want to make sure that like we need you to build the great ORDAO software and everything you do with the governance, architecting and stuff like that. So um happy to happy to help orient it around, how much time would be helpful for you. Want to make sure that you get your breaks as well as have the meetings where you can earn respect and get feedback and try out the tools and stuff like that. And yeah, I want to make sure too, like that everybody in the community. I mean, we can only get so much feedback here, I guess, but be good. We could even maybe put out a poll or something like that too. But hearing what other people in the community think, because like, yeah, I'm curious. I see Jacob's unmuted. Jacob, do you want to share any thoughts?
Sure. I'll just give my, I guess we'll say, outsider or user perspective of things. I think in terms of like the meetings themselves, you guys have like cracked down um the formula for it, right? I mean, every week it's hop in a Zoom meeting, get into your breakout rooms, do the respect game, and then have the town hall. And again, for what seems like a good amount of time, it seems right, just that goes on as it is. And I think it's a pretty solid formula at this point. So it, at least in terms of like the resources we have, um, you know, maybe there would be benefit to have more breaks where it allows for more of events that like for that Dan could go to, for instance, and do and share the idea there. You know, like I'm sure you got a lot of new interest. And again, this also comes down to what the Optimism Fractal community itself is looking for. But like again, just for example here, like I'm sure you guys got a lot of the new interest when you guys did the respect game in person at Eth Denver, right? And so just if that's your interest to get more people involved that way, and get the word out, you know, I'm sure more breaks would allow for more opportunities like that. And then just again, development wise, like if we want to continue to build out the websites further, it'll allow more development time, more again, just more social outreach as well. So yeah, I don't know. It comes down to, and I guess maybe that's what it'll come down to is maybe a poll. Just do the poll and see what everybody says. And so just yeah, see this is all my opinion, but see what the Optimism Fractal community wants to do. And I guess that's like the whole point of this conversation, right? And go based off that. Yeah, hopefully my input's been helpful.
Yep, that's very helpful. Thank you, Jacob. Really appreciate it. We are like 15 minutes past top of the hour, so I guess we should wrap it up. I guess I just want to ask Jacob, out of curiosity, do you have a strong personal preference, just coming from your own perspective?
From That's a good question. From my perspective, I wouldn't say I really do. Again, for my chaotic life, I don't have a preference. It probably changes every other month or so, I'd say. So probably not a good person to ask on that.
Okay, well, no, appreciate it. So okay, well, that's a helpful feedback. And yeah, maybe next steps is I could put out a poll, and we could just see what people think who aren't at the meeting right now. And then if anybody has any thoughts throughout the week, then we can share it on Discord, and we'll have one more event coming up in 2 weeks for Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall before the end of the season, and we'll make some sort of decision shortly about the break and so forth. So, and of course, we'll also have an Eden Fractal event on next Thursday at 7 UTC as well for anybody who interested in joining. And we welcome everybody to join and participate in discussions. Tadas, do you have any last thoughts on this, or Jacob, or should we wrap it up now?
No, I think we can wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good. It's been a long one. I've been on calls for like 4.5 hours today. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jake and Tadas, for all the great thoughts. Oh, I see Jake's unmuting. Anything else, Jake, you want to share, or you getting ready to say go optimism or something?
I'm just ready to go optimism or something.
Okay, sounds good. I think we'll maybe go optimism rather than go optimism or something, but
We know the drill, Dan.
we would drill. Yeah, go optimism or something. Wait, what? Just joking. Okay, well, thanks everybody so much for joining. Shout out to everybody who joined the event today. Shout out for everybody who's contributing to optimism around the world. Hope that everybody enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Eden Fractal and at the Optimism Fractal and Town Hall events. The last ones this season coming up on May 3rd. No, April 3rd. I gotta say it all over again. No, I'm just joking. Okay. Thanks all so much. Have a great day. And on 3, 2, 1, we'll say go optimism. 3, 2, 1. Go
Go
optimism.
optimism.
All right. Thanks all. See you.
I guess.